Funny, and I did it again. Dang nabbit. I say good morning. I mean to say good day. I'm trying to get into a new routine where I say good day because for those people that are watching it later that may not be watching us live. So sorry about that. So let's start over again. Take two. Good day, Cochise County. Welcome to the Michael Zehr Show. Today's date is September 23rd. 2022. I didn't even have to look at my watch. I'm proud of myself.
It's on the screen up there.
Pat myself. Oh man, you just gave away my secret. Today we are joined here at the Warrior Healing Center, the Rising Eagle Studios at the Warrior Healing Center, and my special guest veteran is Dan Pierce, and I refer to Dan as my BFF because I met him through the Knights of Columbus. And I couldn't find anything I wanted to be passionate about or get volunteer or anything about, and I was trying to find my nook with the Knights. And somebody mentioned bingo, and I said, okay. So I went out and I started volunteering for bingo, and that's how I met Dan, because he is the bingo captain. Is that the correct term?
Bingo manager.
Bingo manager. Okay, I'm going to have to change that on my.
You're a bingo captain.
I'm a captain. Okay, I thought I was a team leader.
You came in and tag your it.
Okay, tag your it.
All right. You're the bingo captain. I'm the bingo manager.
But I have to say, I love working bingo. It is so much fun, and I love doing it in honor of Charlie Valdez because he was a good knight, a Sir Knight, and it's knights like yourself and Charlie that take newer knights and you mentor them. And how do you mentor them? By your actions. You don't just say this, or this. You actually give that guidance. And I think that's another reason why I wanted to talk with Dan. So I always call him my BFF, best friend forever, because he said, well, I'm not a sociable person. You're not going to get me. So it took me over a year, but daggone it, I finally got you. So
All
Dan.
right. Fair enough.
Thank you.
All right.
God bless you for coming in. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Mike.
So we're going to flip the script today. We're going to do something a little different. Usually I'll start off asking the veteran about his military service, but I've noticed a lot of questions and activity on some Facebook pages asking about bingo. And since Dan is the bingo manager at the Columbian Hall, I thought, well, let's start off there first and kind of give the community an idea of how bingo is done, what it you've made a lot of changes, a lot of innovations. It's grown a lot. Even in the year that I've been involved, it's gotten quite big. So why don't you give us a little bit of an idea, like how the bingo operations work there, the days, stuff like that.
All right. Well, bingo has actually been going on for, golly, as far as I can remember. So that's been almost 30 years we've had bingo at the hall.
Okay.
Matter of fact, the gentleman that used to run it, be the bingo manager, his name is Louis Kappas.
Okay.
And if you can remember looking at your Knights letters and stuff like that, he is currently in the Life Care Center.
Yes.
And he is actually the one that was able to really, truly maintain it and keep it running, keep it functioning. He did a lot for that. But as with all of us, and as we get older and our health kind of plays tricks on us and stuff like that, he kind of forced himself to retire from bingo because for health reasons. And he's a great guy. He did amazing things, and I really can't. The only credit I can really take for the program is just basically putting newer technology in there.
Okay.
But as far as the actual functionality and what games, I mean, not really what games we play, but the initial format of bingo has contributed to him.
But it really has come up quite a bit. I mean, like you don't do the tickets anymore now. We have the
yeah.
What's that?
It's just a number printer. What it is that I can't say me. Yeah, I can.
Well, you got the Clover machines in there,
I
didn't
got the
you?
Clover machines in there, and I've got the new tablets in there for the electronic side of it. I've got new sound system in there, new video system in there. Golly, a new way of generating a. It's like a drawing chance at halftime for
For the
for the
scratchers?
scratchers, correct.
Right.
Um, I just got to come up with more different and challenging ways to make it basically equal for all players,
Mm-hmm.
an equal opportunity for all players for them to win. For a scratcher at halftime, before we used to give it away. We used to give away tickets based on the number or the amount of money you spent, and I was always against that.
Okay.
I think each player, regardless of how much they spend for playing bingo, whether it's $10 or whether it's $100 or whether it's $200, they should actually have the same opportunity to win a scratcher.
I agree.
So that's why I changed basically the format of it. So we have that. Oh golly, new games. We used to play 21 games, and 21 games used to take us three and a half hours. So it was a long, long night. And you could see where I had a lot of customers that were saying, can we change things up? And that's when we went to a 16 game
To
format.
16 games.
And now we're at two and a half hours. We get out of there.
And don't forget the new floors that you put down, too.
Oh, yes. We put in new floors. Thanks to the individuals that helped me from not only our Knights of Columbus council there at St. Andrews, but also Our Lady of the Mountain.
Yes.
Jim and his guys really, really, really supported us a lot. Rick, Alan, all the guys over there, Steven, all the guys that helped. If I'm forgetting anybody, I'm sorry.
Well, and see, that's another thing I noticed about bingo is that it's not just our council. It's Our Lady of the Mountain comes in, and then you have other people that come in that are associated, like Beth, and that are associated with the church, stuff like that, that come in and volunteer, and then they can take whatever money. Because how does that? First, we should explain that too about the people that volunteer.
Okay, for the individuals that volunteer, or the organizations that volunteer, we basically donate. We, the Columbian Association, we will donate to your 501 nonprofit organization $50 per person that works for that night.
Up to 6 people, right?
Up to
Seven.
Seven.
7 people.
7 people. Because certain positions we can only justify certain positions.
Right.
So we're supporting our council, the Knights. We're supporting Our Lady of the Mountain Council. We're supporting Beth and the Heritage Girls, the Boy Scouts, the Cub Scouts, and also the Sierra Vista Symphony Organization of Sierra Vista, which has been a great help.
They have.
They have been amazing help. Deb, who does the machines for me, she's basically she carries the whip,
right,
for her group of folks.
She does.
Yeah, it's been great, and all the guys that really help, I'm truly appreciative of.
And what I love about Deb is that she's always up for a challenge.
Always,
so
she's going to be a caller.
Going to be a caller now.
Yeah, so. She's going to be a caller now. So.
And if you want to be a bingo caller, do you have to be a knight, or can you just, if you want to volunteer, how would that go?
No, you do not have to be a knight. Actually, you don't have to be a knight at all to volunteer and work and support our bingo organization. The only requirement really to being to working at the hall and where you have to be a knight is if you ever wanted to be a captain.
Okay.
You must be a knight.
Okay.
Or if you want to be like myself, the bingo manager, you must be the knight. Because when we apply for our license every year from the state, there's certain positions that have to be knights or the Columbian Association member.
Mhm.
To be a clumbing association member, you basically have to be a knight, or you can be an auxiliary member. Um, but simply to be in certain positions within the bingo organization, you have to be a knight.
Okay. And what are the prizes that are given out for these 16?
Okay, all right, that's a good question. We have 16 games, 13 of which we give out for each game is $120.
Okay.
And then if we have multiple players, then we split it multiple times. Just the other night, I think John, I think he had a 7 winner on a game, so that came out to about $17 or $18 or something like that. So we had to pay 7 players.
They had to split it.
Had to split it. But we have 13 games as $120, and then we have one game, which is game 8, which is a guaranteed $500, and then we have game 15, which is a jackpot of $900 and a certain amount of numbers. And if nobody wins on a certain amount of numbers, it's a progressive. It keeps going up.
Okay.
When if nobody wins on the number that they have to meet to get the $900, it goes back to the alternate prize, which is $500. Excuse me. And then the last game is $2,000. And again, you got to win by a certain amount of numbers. If you don't win, it goes back to $500. And the only reason why our prizes are set the way that they're set is because we have a restriction from the state of Arizona to where we can only give away X amount of dollars per night. If we were to give out all of them, we have a threshold that we cannot go past.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
And that is the only reason why our prizes are the way they are, is because under the state of Arizona's laws for nonprofit organizations conducting bingo, you have a threshold based on your license category as to how much money we give away. And if all of our games were to go in one night, we will meet the threshold. We will meet the threshold of what we're allowed to give away, and then I think it's down. It's up to we're $10 within the max threshold.
Okay.
I'll put it to you like that.
That's close.
That's really, really close.
Yeah. And now we're going to be offering lottery tickets here pretty soon, too.
Correct.
Right?
Matter of fact, David and myself, David is our facility manager down at the hall. Excuse me. We just met with the lottery gentleman yesterday. We were talking about the lottery. We're going to be doing the quick picks and the lottery numbers and stuff like that. We have a machine that's going to do that for them.
Okay.
And then we're also going to be offering scratchers in the amounts of $1, $2, $3, $5, and $10.
Okay.
The caveat to that is at this present time, we will not be accepting any credit cards, and we will not be accepting any debit cards. We will only accept cash.
Oh, all right.
And that's what the lottery commission basically has, well, what's the word? Directed us to they didn't really direct us, but they highly recommended until we see how this takes off. You know what I mean?
Right.
So.
Well, speaking as a team captain, and I enjoy and I love doing it because you get to interact with so many different people, and as you know, I like to talk a lot, yada yada yada.
Yada yada yada.
But I just enjoy it because again, that interaction. But when you brought in the Clover machines, that was like a big game changer because then people could start using debit cards and credit cards to pay for their paper machines as well, paper packs as well as the machines.
Well, what it is that long time ago, we took credit cards, but then we never took debit cards, but we took credit cards on the old 300 baud dial-up, what's the word? Terminals. You punch in the number, you swipe the card, and then you had to wait an hour for the dial-up to prove it and stuff like that. So, and again, because of my technology background, I basically said there's an easier and faster way we can do this. So and that's when I started doing the research. It's either going with Clover or Square, or what other card processing equipment that's out there. And after all the research I did, I finally settled on Clover. But they all have their shortfalls. But I think Clover's the most and the easiest one to really work with the back end of it as far as setting up your Clover devices and stuff like that.
Well, again, stepping back and just watching what you do, one of my biggest things I've noticed is you have really brought it up to where it's so much easier for your volunteers that are working there to be able to do
Mm-hmm.
the job and assist the bingo players.
Well,
So,
I'm trying to get the bingo operation to a point to where it's a no brainer.
mhm,
I'm trying to get it to a point to where we can come in and have anybody come in and train, and it'll be transparent to them. You know, I'm trying to get it to a point to where it's going to become second nature. Because the problem is that our bingo organization and the people that work bingo, they work in teams. We have 4 teams. Each team works 2 nights a month, and then they don't come in for another month.
right.
So everything they've learned, Michael,
Yeah.
so everything they've learned in the first 2 or 3 days, and because they're not there for a month, the next time they come in, they go, oh, hell.
Muscle memory.
Exactly. So, sometimes I just got to keep reminding them and keep answering questions, but I'm trying to get it to a point to where it's basically self-explanatory. Reading is fundamental.
So, as the bingo manager at the Columbian Hall, what do you think is your most satisfying or uh, like proudest thing that you've done towards helping the hall and bingo succeed, especially with the pandemic and everything? That had to hurt for a while.
It did hurt for a while. I can tell you, I can be quite honest with you, that we were almost at the point of closing the hall
Okay.
because I didn't have enough people volunteering to work. And we basically had to force ourselves to go to 3 teams, which does not work. We have to have 4 teams. And I've already basically told everybody, and everybody understands this quite well, that if we ever have to go to 3 teams working bingo again, we will stop working bingo. We will stop having bingo, because you're asking way too much of volunteers. You're asking way too much of their time. And, we're doing it to support the community. We're doing it to support the Knights, and we're doing it to support the church.
Right.
And if we can't find people to stand up to support causes, to support the community, it's just, in my opinion, it's just simply not fair to others, to where they're doing all the work.
Well, it's not like the Columbian Association is in it for the money.
No.
Like you said, they're doing it by helping take what they take in, and they turn around and send it right back out
Correct.
to organizations that need assistance.
Correct.
So I find that quite noble. So you're not only like covering expenses and stuff like that, but you're also
Supporting
giving back to the community.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's one thing that I love about being a Knight and finally joining after going to St. Andrews for decades is, again, it takes a while to find your niche, and if you're new, you just kind of have to sit back and observe, and if you don't understand, you ask questions. In my case, I probably asked too many questions. But why did you get involved with bingo? What led you in that direction when you were like in the church and the council? How did that all come about?
Well, I don't.
Were you like sitting in a council meeting and then they said, "Oh, we need volunteers"? And
Well, I don't know if I want to really share that story,
oh, okay, that's cool.
because I've already told you that story, Michael.
Well, me, but I don't know if you said it online here. But
Yeah, but maybe this is not the right format
Okay.
to say it online.
all right, I got you. That's cool. So when you're,
It was about, remember the story I told you about mentoring
yeah,
that doesn't exist anymore?
right. I
Okay.
got you. I got
That's how
you.
come I don't want to share
Okay.
it with the world.
So
Can I drink this?
you can, sure, of
All right.
course. We're just kind of sitting here talking, so I drink my coffee.
Yeah, but mine is
You're Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper.
My son will love you because he works for Coke.
Okay.
So how long have you been with the Knights of Columbus?
Since 93?
Since 93?
Yeah, since 1993.
So let's backtrack a little bit and let's talk about your military career leading up to how you got involved with staying here in Sierra Vista and becoming involved with the Colombian Association, stuff like that. So when you were a kid and you were growing up, where was home at that time?
Well, let's see. As I told you earlier, my dad was in the military, and he was stationed in Canada, Ernest Harmon Air Force Base. He was a mechanic.
Okay.
For all the equipment, for the they clear the runways and stuff like that from the snow. So he was a mechanic. I was born in Newfoundland, Canada. My mother is Canadian by birth, and that's where my dad and my mom met, Canada, while my dad was stationed in Newfoundland.
Okay.
So I've got relatives on my mother's side that are Canadian, relatives on my father's side who's U.S. American citizens. So I was a military brat. So born in Canada, spent most of my youth traveling the world wherever Dad got stationed, Germany, France. My dad was stationed in France when we got kicked out of France. When the U.S. Army
got
kicked out of France. Excuse me. So I spent my youth, golly, where were we? Fort Benning, Georgia, Texas, Fort Hood, Texas, Fort Campbell, Kentucky. So if we weren't traveling, we were in Oklahoma, and Bacoshi, Oklahoma. Population 500.
Oh wow, that's
that's
town.
including the chickens and the dogs. Okay. My brothers. I mean, we lived in Bacoshi, Oklahoma, because my dad was on orders and he was in Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
So that's where we stayed, and that's where we lived with my grandparents and stuff. My brother's graduation class was 3.
3. Wow.
So their graduation took, I don't know,
10 minutes maybe?
10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe. All right, so yeah, grew up in Oklahoma, and then my dad, he retired in Oklahoma. After he retired, we moved to Arkansas, Fort Smith, Arkansas, and grew up in Fort Smith. Graduated high school in Fort Smith. When I was a kid attending high school, I got my first job not really my first job, but I got a job at 14 years old working for a TV station. I was
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I worked. Here's the funniest thing that happened is that I used to do theater. Like community theater.
Right.
And we did what we did was called theater in the round. Basically, your audience was all around you. Okay.
Right.
Called theater in the round. I was in one of the places. Matter of fact, the name of the play was called The Death Set. So I was working the play. I was in the play, and I was, working with some older people. Another gentleman, his name is John Ernreich. And we were just talking. He says, so Dan, what do you do? And I told him I was attending the high school, Fort Smith Northside High School. He goes, what do you do do you do any work or anything? I said, no, I'm trying to find a job. He goes, I heard, he goes like this. He goes, Dan, he called me Danny, and I don't like being called Danny. Father Greg at the church calls me Danny too.
He does.
He's the only one I let get by with that.
I wonder why.
Well, I prefer to be called Dan.
Right.
Or hey you or whatever. So anyway, he says, what do you do? I said, no, I'm looking for a job. He says, I heard that this TV station down here, they might be looking for somebody to cut the grass or something like that. Why don't you go down there and talk to them? Okay, fine. I'll give it a shot. So I went down to the TV station. I said, who do I need to speak to about getting a job cutting the grass? And they said, oh, yeah, you need to go talk to this gentleman over here in this office. He was like their comptroller guy. Knocked on the door. Guess who comes to the door? John Hernreich, the guy who told me to go down there and get the job.
And get the job, yeah.
John, it was his father that not only owned that TV station, but he owned the TV station in Jonesboro and Fayetteville, and he owned a lot of TV stations and radio stations.
Wow.
And then, so I started cutting the grass my first year. He says, Dan, whatever you need, we'll go to Sears and get it. So we go by a riding lawnmower, and we go by one of these little metal garage things you put together, and you park the lawnmower in there, and the weed eaters. We bought new weed eaters, and I was cutting grass, having a good time. He goes, all right, now it's time for you to go to work inside the TV station. So I not only did I cut the grass, but now I was in charge of cleaning the studio. So I'd go in there and, because they did live commercials and for car salesmen and stuff like that. So I'd go in there and I would make sure that the whatever props they needed to be set up, or move the camera around to where it needed to be moved, and move the lighting system around to where and that's when I really first started getting interested into electronics and technology.
Okay.
The cameras were huge, and the cable for the cameras were like at least 2 inches.
What year was that? About, you remember?
73.
73. Okay.
1972, 73. So I started working as the cleanup guy I started working as the cleanup guy when I was 14 in the studio. By the next year, I'd graduated all the way up to becoming a cameraman.
Wow.
A studio
OJT?
cameraman. OJT. I was a cameraman at the age of 15. And the next year, by the time I turned 16, I became a switching engineer. And I got my license at the age of 16. Because those guys there, they were just simply amazing teachers. I mean, mentors. It was just fascinating. They taught me everything I needed to know. And then by the time I was 17 and I was still in high school, I was a remote. I used to go out to when they used to go do, what's the word I'm looking for? When they used to go out and do remotes for the football games.
Okay.
I'd go with the guy and be their tech guy and set up all the stuff and set up the connectivity. It was all done with phone lines and stuff like that. I would go out and I would actually film in black and white the old camera and film the basketball game, baseball game, football game, whatever it is. Bring it back to the studio and develop it, run it through the developer and stuff like that. So,
and those cameras were heavy, right?
Oh my goodness, yes. And so I did that, and next thing you know, it's time to graduate high school. I played football in high school as well. I was a kicker in high school. And by the time when I graduated, it's like, okay, now what are you going to do with the rest of your life? And I said, join the military, because my dad was in the military, my grandfather was in the military, my great-grandfather was in the military, my great-great-grandfather was in the military. My great-grandfather was in the military. He was in the war, Civil War.
Wow.
He was a cannoneer, and he got wounded at the Battle of Manassas, Virginia. And I had an opportunity to actually go to that very spot where he got wounded, because they kept such good records.
Wow.
So I joined the military. When I joined the military as a Chinook helicopter repairman. And then after only 2 years of doing that, and after so many of my friends getting hurt, my first duty assignment was in Korea. And the first year I was there, I was in a hard landing. Basically, the number one engine seized up, so they lost power to the rotors.
Okay.
And luckily we're just doing an NOE, nap of the earth. We were pretty low, and we just came in and we just did a hard landing on a rice paddy. So after that incident, after another hard landing in a Huey, after my friends getting hurt, after I don't know if anybody remembers this, but in Germany they had a Chinook full of um, jumpers, parachute.
Right.
The entire aircraft went down, so like 32 people perished. And the flight engineer on that aircraft was my best friend that I went through school with.
Oh my.
So after all those incidents, I said, I think it's time for me to get out of aviation. Came time for me to re-enlist, and I said, what else is available to me?
So how long had you been in at that time?
I'd only been in 2 years.
2 years, and you went through all of that
All
in
of
just
that
2 years?
in 2 years.
Wow.
All of that in 2 years. Yes, all of that in 2 years. And I said, no, I'm done with aviation. Too many of my friends are either dying or getting hurt because of Chinook helicopters. Well, excuse me. Re-enlistment time, I said, what I have option? I want to be, what do I have? What can I do? They said, you can do this, 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 or this. I said, oh, linguist. Oh, that looks interesting. I want to be a linguist. All right. So I had to take the DLAB test, the Defensive Language Aptitude Battery Test, whatever it's called.
Okay.
It's not a language. It's gibberish. And what you have to do is when you take that test, you have to make sense out of the gibberish that they're talking about.
So at the time you took this test, it was the only language that you had spoken was just English?
English, correct.
Okay.
Or Oklahoman.
Oklahoman, okay.
Because a friend of mine was from Boston, Massachusetts. And I used to tease him about, I didn't join the Army to teach somebody from Boston how to speak English. But anyway, that's another story for another day.
So you say you're taking the D-Lab and...
I took the D-Lab and I scored a 97. And it's like...
very high.
This boy from Oklahoma? What? Okay. So I said, and they go, wow, because of your score that you got, you have your option of languages. You can either take Russian, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Russian. Oh, I don't know. I had basically my choice of all of them. And I settled on Korean.
Okay.
So when I re-enlisted as a Korean linguist at 98 Golf.
And where were you at when you re-enlisted?
Oklahoma.
In
Fort
Oklahoma.
Sill, Oklahoma.
Fort Sill, okay.
In the Chinook Helicopter Company.
So you enlisted, re-enlisted, and you took the D-Lab, so then I'm guessing you have to go back and go to a different AIT school, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So the first thing I had to go to was language training.
And that was where?
DLI, Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California.
Alrighty.
Rough assignment. Just kidding. It's beautiful. I went to DLI. I started taking, basic Korean. And the basic Korean course is 47 weeks long.
Wow.
Which is roughly a year.
Yes.
And then that's where I did my basic training in Monterey, California, Presidio, Monterey, California. After I graduated my basic training, I had to go to my AIT, which was down at Goodfellow Air Force Base in Texas, and that's where you learn all the technical aspects of the job.
Okay.
And then after I graduated and completed that, I got my first assignment, which was, guess where? Korea.
And what year was this?
Oh gosh, 70. I forgot. 8, 9. Too many days ago.
Is that when you met your wife?
That's when I met my wife.
Over there? Okay.
Because in order to maintain your language, you need to speak to the locals, or you need to speak to the native speakers. So I said, let's go find a university where all the girls hang out. And sure enough, I went to a coffee shop, and just so happened that the students, because during the time that I was in Korea, they had women colleges and they had male colleges. They really didn't have
co-ed,
right, for the most part, because of cultures and stuff like that. I went to the coffee shop, ordered coffee, sat down. You start picking up conversations, you start chit-chatting, and of course the university students, they're trying to improve on their English, and I was trying to improve on my Korean.
So it was like you
It all
talked to
worked
them
out.
in Korean, and then they would respond back in English.
Pretty much.
Oh,
Pretty much.
interesting.
Pretty much.
Wow.
And that's when I met my wife.
And where at in Korea again was this?
It was at Camp Humphreys.
Camp Humphreys.
Mm-hmm.
And
Camp Humphreys.
is that how long were you stationed there for?
My first tour there, I was there for 2 years.
And did you get married at that time while
Correct.
you were there, or did
Correct.
you leave it? Okay.
I got married while I was there.
Okay.
And because of the job that I was in, and because of the top secret security clearance, and because my wife was not a U.S. citizen yet, I had to jump through a lot of hoops and do a lot of special paperwork and stuff like that to get a mother may I slip to make sure it's okay with the government that I marry a foreign national type thing. So
you just can't do it. You have to get permission, right?
got to get a mother may I slip. Correct.
So you're married now. You're in Korea, and then your first place is coming back to the States. Then after that, together.
I came back to the States together. Went back to DLI to learn advanced Korean.
Okay.
After I finished that, after a year, back to Korea. I was in Korea for 2 or 3 years. And then after I finished that, I went back to DLI. Well, I didn't go back to DLI. Actually, I went back to Monterey, California. And for my advanced Korean, I went to Monterey Institute of International Studies.
See, I would think, after just this short discussion that we've had here, just the fact that you've been over there and learning from the culture and the language and everything, that when you came back, instead of the DLI teaching you, you were probably teaching them, right? No?
No. I mean, all of my instructors were amazing.
Were they?
Yeah, they were. Especially U Sunsing Nim, U Paksanim. Sunsing Nim means teacher. Paksanim means professor. And I learned so much, and I just love the culture. I love the language, and still to this day, the wife and I, we speak a lot of Korean because that prevents people from understanding us.
Right.
And then I still watch Korean soap operas to maintain my level, my proficiency. Yeah. So anyway, I was basically, my assignment was either Korea or DLI. Korea or DLI, DLI, Korea. And then when I came back, Korea, I went to Fort Ord, Korea, back to Fort Ord. And then when I was when I was stationed at Fort Ord the last time is where Fort Ord, California was closing down. They were doing away with the 7th Infantry Division. And they were going to be moving the 7th Infantry, or a lot of units from 7th Infantry, up to Fort Lewis, Washington.
Okay.
So while I was in the 107th MI Battalion. While I was in the 107th MI Battalion, I was platoon sergeant. And then they needed somebody to work in admin, to work at the PAC. Excuse me. So I went to work in the PAC, became the NCOIC of the PAC. While I was the NCOIC of the PAC, our battalion admin, our S1 captain, I forgot her name, Captain, whatever her name was. She went on vacation. So they asked me to step in. I'm still,
what was your rank at that time?
I just got promoted to E7.
Okay.
So they asked me to step in as the adjutant while she was out. While she was out on vacation, we got a couple of nastograms from G1 saying, "So, where are these congressionals that you guys received?" And of course, that's a big. You don't mess around with not replying to congressionals. So our XO, he came in and said, "Sergeant Parrish, where the hell's where are the the congressionals, and I said, "Sir, what are you talking about? I just came in here Monday, and it's only Thursday. How do I know?
Thrown to the wolves.
You need to find them." So I found them. There were two congressionals she had in her desk with no response back to the congressionals.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, needless to say, when she came back from leave, she was no longer in that position. They basically fired her, and it wasn't a pretty sight. And during that time period, that's when and also while I was thrown to the wolves, our battalion was going through a battalion commander change. And the battalion commander that was coming in his name was Spider Marks. True story.
Okay.
Because he was the general here on Fort Huachuca. I can't remember, James Marks, I think. I think he retired as a 3-star general. Marks. We call him Spider. He came in, and I thought for sure, okay, change command. They're going to get another captain in there to be the adjutant. And the XO at the time was Major Volk. And I thought, okay, I'm out of here. I'm going back to the Packer. I'm going back to the company to be a platoon sergeant. Oh, no. Because of all the work that I did, because you did basically
too good of a job?
Huh?
Because you did too good of a job.
Because I did too good of a job, I held the position as the battalion adjutant for 2 years. And I said, how's this even legal?
Other duties as assigned, I guess.
Other duties as assigned, exactly. So while I was also the adjutant, then it's time for them to say, okay, now Fort Ord, you're moving to Fort Lewis, Washington. So then also, as part of my additional duties, I became the movement NCOIC, in charge of the movement of the battalion to Fort Lewis.
So you really did have a lot of different things where you had to adapt, overcome, to get the mission done.
To get the mission done. Went TDY to Fort Lewis a lot of times, setting up our new headquarters. Looking at facilities for our new headquarters and looking at facilities for the new barracks. I'd go up there with the sergeant major. I'd go up there with the XO, and I went up there with a couple of the first sergeants. How we're going to lay out the new battalion location, stuff like that. So I did all this work, and it's like, okay, honey, we're going to Fort Lewis, Washington. Getting ready to go PCS to Fort Lewis because the whole battalion's moving, stuff like that. So we're making all these arrangements. We're getting in, where we're going to live at in the Fort Lewis, Washington area and stuff like that. So I come down on orders.
Oh, no.
Boy. Fort Huachuca, Arizona.
Fort Huachuca what?
And my wife says, who?
Exactly.
And I go, we're not going to Fort Lewis, dear. We're going to Fort Huachuca, Arizona. She goes, where the hell's Fort Huachuca, Arizona? And I said, exactly, honey. I said, it's in the desert. And then I can only remember when we drove out here. We drove down from 10 down to Sierra Vista here, and it was a 2-lane highway. And my wife was practically crying.
They used to call it the highway to hell.
Highway to hell, correct. And the only thing she saw was desert, cactus, more desert, and more cactus. And I could just see her. She was just
crying.
It was. But we got here, and it's just like every other place. You can only make it your home as you put forth the effort.
Right.
So we came in 93, and we built. At that time, we bought the property and we built our own house. And the only reason why we built the house is because it's basically cheaper to pay a mortgage than it was to pay rent. It's about the same thing. And we both knew that I was getting closer and closer and closer to my retirement. But the other part that I didn't tell you about my time at Fort Ord. My time at Fort Ord, another enlistment came up. And if I were to enlist for 6 years, the deal at that time was the military will give you 1 year off and go to college. To go to college.
Oh, to go to college.
To go to college. You don't have to go to formations. You don't have to go to anything. You reenlist. I reenlisted for 6 years. They basically said, okay, whatever college you choose, I made my choice. And the year I was in college, and I busted my backside. I got my degree in architectural design.
What college was it?
At San Luis Obispo. It's called Cal Poly.
Okay, Cal Poly. I know that one. I've heard of it.
Okay, and then I also got a degree in. I also got my engineering degree. So by the time we came to Sierra Vista and we wanted to build our house, you have to ask the local people who's the best contractor, who's the best guy. So they told me who the contractor was. I met the contractor. His name is Ralph Kamarowski. He's passed. He was a member of our church.
Okay.
And his son Todd and Mike. No, I can't remember Todd's brother. Anyway, they built my house. Did a great job, and I designed our house because of my.
Because of your degree.
Because of my degree, I was able to do
the floor plans and everything.
I did all the floor plans and everything.
Yeah.
And I got so involved in that, even when I was still active duty. My part-time job during that time period I got here, my part-time job after I was doing my Army job, I used to design houses for people here in Sierra Vista.
Oh, okay.
There's probably a good 300 houses, 400 houses in Sierra Vista or in Cochise County that have been built that I designed.
Wow. See, I didn't know that. See, I'm learning more stuff here. That's why I love sitting down and talking and stuff like this.
And then I retired.
At Fort Huachuca, right?
Retired at Fort Huachuca.
How many years had you had in at that time?
Gosh, I retired with 26 and a half. 26 and 9 months. Actually, I medically retired because I was on orders to go back to Korea again.
Okay.
And then they said, oh, wait, you got 2 P3 profiles. And I go, yeah. So I can pass my PT test based on my restrictions. Oh, no. Now we think we need to kick your ass out. Anyway, long story short, they medically retired me. And then after when I was stationed in Korea, I played flag football and we were playing the medics. I got injured. They knew exactly where to hit me in the knees, took my knees out. Had to have surgery on the knees. That's how come I got the P3 profiles.
Oh, geez.
Anyway, so they medically retired me. So I got medically retired, and after serving 26 years, 9 months, something like that.
When you medically retire after that many years, and you were an E8 Master Sergeant?
Yeah, correct.
So when you medically retire, or at that time, do you have all the same benefits and pay and everything that you would have if you'd just retired?
Yes, correct.
So there's really no big difference in it then?
Okay. No. And then when I retired, and then when I went to do my first VA review and stuff like that, based on my P3s and all my restrictions and my injuries and stuff, just like most other vets, you're only starting at about 10 or 20 or 30% at max. And so over time, as things get worse in your body,
yes,
because of your injuries. I mean, I don't know if a lot of it should remember that we used to do this stupid PT test, and it was the crab walk, and then the run, dodge, and jump
yep,
with combat boots. So all of this stuff is deteriorating parts of your body. So eventually, long story short, after all these injuries and after going to the VA for so many times and after having my packet reviewed, and because of the ringing my ears and because of my job and because of my migraine headaches and all this other stuff, eventually I got it increased. So I got it increased. My VA benefits. So anyway,
how did you go about getting your increase? Did you go through an organization?
I went to a lawyer. On your own?
You went to a lawyer.
I went to a lawyer.
Okay.
Because if anybody else has ever dealt with the VA stuff, I think it's based on the administration that's in charge at the time, how well they're going to treat a VA,
a
vet. and when I was going through that, it's like, oh no, 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 no. You'd keep submitting paperwork and paperwork and paperwork and paperwork and paperwork, and then fighting with VA and fighting with VA and fighting with VA and fighting with VA.
And they'll get it and they'll say, "Oh, we don't
Oh,
like
we
this
don't got
form.
it. We
Use
don't
this
like.
form." And
So
yeah,
it became a nightmare for 8 years. It was. I mean, for 8 years, it was a nightmare.
wow.
I said, screw this. I gave up on it. And the wife says, no, you got to continue doing it. She goes, she spoke to somebody who spoke to somebody who went to a lawyer, and the lawyer got it squared away for him.
Wow.
I went to that lawyer, and he got it squared away for me because he was a vet and he knew the system.
Yeah.
He knew the system. He knew all the forms. He knew all the arguments. He knew everything. He says, you provide me with this, 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 and this, and this, and this, I will fight your case. He fought it, and he won it for me.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Because you don't hear about that a lot.
It shouldn't have to get to that
and
point.
it shouldn't take that long either.
And it shouldn't take that long. But I mean, it shouldn't never get to that point, because if you serve your country,
right,
and if you're injured serving your country needs to take care of you.
Oh, definitely. And I will say, though, now the process has really, the VA has done, and I'm not quoting the VA, I'm not patting the VA on the back, but the process has really gotten better since then, I'm pretty sure. Because, like, for one thing, when a veteran comes into the DAV, if I help him file a claim, it is very labor intensive, a lot of forms you have to fill out, which, a lot of forms.
I know, because I went through the DAV.
Yeah. And at the end of it, though, now you just email it all in. You don't have to deal with all the snail mail, which also caused delays. But yeah, we've had quite a few veterans that have passed away while they were waiting for their benefit to be approved, and it was a nightmare what was going on there. So again, I'm not patting them on the back, but I'm saying it has gotten a little bit better than.
I mean, it used to be so frustrating.
And that's what a lot of our service members right now that are getting out, that have served, that were in, your case many years ago, that are dealing with the VA and are still feeling that same, frustration.
And it shouldn't be.
Right.
But anyway, and then I retired.
So what made you choose to stay here at Fort Huachuca? Obviously, you had a house.
I had a house. Really had nowhere to go. Where would I go?
Did your wife end up liking it here after she cried
she
when
she did. Because what I didn't tell you was while I was in the Korea the second time, my wife became a volunteer for the American Red Cross, and she worked in the dental office.
Oh, wow.
On Camp Humphreys. And then while she was at Camp Humphreys working as a volunteer, the doctor's name was Carl. Oh, I'm going to mispronounce his name. Furukawa. Farakawa. Doctor, he's a dentist. Farakawa. I'm sorry. I'm mispronouncing his name. I'm sorry.
Okay.
He was a young captain. Dentist. And he basically taught my wife how to be a dental assistant.
Wow, that's
While
great.
my wife was training to be a dental assistant, they got her into another program over at Osan Air Base, to where she was traveling between Camp Humphreys and Osan Air Base to become a certified dental assistant. So you got to remember, her primary language is Korean.
Yes.
Not English.
Correct.
I can remember that when she was studying to become a dental assistant, excuse me, and a dental hygienist, one of the processes they have to go through is they have to learn the name of every nerve in your face.
Ooh,
the names.
I don't even think I could do that.
I couldn't do it because she was asking me, honey, how do you pronounce his name? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's look it up in the dictionary. So, as Korean being her primary language and English being her second language, she is able to learn all these English medical terms for the dentistry profession and she became a dental hygienist and a dental assistant in Korea. And then and then when we went to Fort Ord the first time, she applied to be a dental assistant on Fort Huachuca to become a civil servant.
Okay.
Call it GS.
And you were active duty, so she should have got spousal preference, right?
Yeah. So she became a dental assistant on Fort Huachuca, Fort Ord, California. And then when we moved from Fort Ord to here, because of PCS orders, when we arrived here, she applied at the Runyon Dental Clinic on Fort Huachuca here, but they did not have any vacancies for dental assistant. But they were still required because of the rules and regulations they have, because you're PCSing and your spouse is working as a GS and stuff like that. So they put her to work at the hospital, Raymond W. Bliss, as a medical records clerk or something.
Oh my God, that's what I did in the Army.
So she did that. She did that at Raymond W. Bliss for a while until a position came available at the dental clinic.
What year was that?
I don't know. 93?
Yeah.
94? I don't know. And then she got into Runyon Dental Clinic and she started working for a lot of the doctors there, and she retired out of there, and I can't remember when she retired. But also, what I didn't tell you is the second time I was at DLI, my wife she came across another Korean lady that was going to be doing her hair, but the other Korean lady also was a golfer. That my wife and her became best friends. My wife started learning to play golf. So that was back in, wow, this is 30 years ago plus. So I guess she kind of grew to love this area because she plays golf now.
All the golf?
3 times a week.
Wow.
To this day.
Does she play on base?
On Fort Huachuca, yeah. Correct. Yeah.
What about you? You play, don't you?
I used to play a lot, but because of medical issues.
Right.
Because of kidney issues, and anyway, because of medical issues, I've reduced my playing time a lot because it would just simply hurt when I started the club. And that's the reason why we stayed here, is we had the house. My wife loved the area because she was still working when I retired. She was still working as a dental assistant on Fort Huachuca. I was still designing houses, and then I went from designing houses, and while I was active duty in the military, I was working for G3, Nesto, New Systems Training Office. The government was getting new equipment in that they wanted to test to be doing the job. It's basically a 3 different platforms for intercepting voice communications. Worked on that system with a friend of mine. I think he still lives out in Whetstone. He was the 33, the tech side of it, and I was the user side of it.
Wow. You had a lot of different experiences, huh?
A lot.
A lot.
So I did that. When I retired, I went to work for a contractor, like everybody else that retires out of Fort Huachuca. I went to work for a contractor, and we supported U.S. Customs and Border Patrol. And at that time, INS, Immigration Naturalization Service. What else did I do? Well, I was supporting them from my engineering background and also from my architectural background. Our contract was to install video surveillance at the port of entries in the United States, both the southern border from San Ysidro, California to Brownsville, Texas, and from Kent, Maine, all the way over to Olympia, Peace Arch Bridge in Washington. My friend, his name's Rod Long. Basically, his responsibility was the northern border, and my responsibility was the southern border.
Right.
So I did all the engineering, and I was in charge of the installation team, and we put fiber optics, and we improved their electrical system that would support our camera system. And I was in charge of the port of entries from California to Texas, and I went to some crazy places, very small to very large. And he did the northern border.
Uh-huh.
And what else did we do? Myself and Rod, we also did. We were supporting some DoD stuff, so we went to Hawaii.
Oh,
We went to Pearl
must have
Harbor.
been tough.
It was rough.
Pearl Harbor would be
Pearl
rough.
Harbor.
That's on a serious note would be rough. Pearl Harbor was
Yeah. Oh, yeah. On a serious note, yeah,
pretty
sure.
emotional.
Yeah.
Haven't been there, but I've talked to a lot of people that go there that just say going to see the Arizona and all the different ships and stuff. It's very sombering.
It is. It is. So while we were there, we supported the Navy. We put in a bunch of cameras and other equipment that I really can't talk about. Went on the very top of Aloha Tower and installed 3 cameras and another system up there.
So you really have done quite a bit, haven't you?
Yeah. I've also done Rod and myself, again, supporting DOD.
Yep.
We went to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, Gitmo, Cuba. And between myself, Rod, and another gentleman, we put the fiber optic ring around the Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. We installed a lot of video surveillance equipment in there. We did a lot of work for the retention centers prior to the war, when they brought all the bad guys and put them in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba.
The ones from 9/11, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So we did a lot.
I understand some are still there.
Don't know.
Yeah, I was reading an article about it the other day that a couple of them were getting ready to go on trial after what, 20-some years?
20-some years?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, we only did the technical side of it.
Right.
We only set up the cameras. We only set up the fiber optic ring around the area. We only did the technical stuff. We never. I didn't even think about it. And I didn't even dwell on it because we were just too busy.
Too busy.
And then I retired from doing that, and that's it.
Wow.
And then I got involved in the church, and then I got involved with the Climbing Association. Then I got involved with bingo, and then I got involved with installing newer and better and gooder electronic stuff for the bingo side of the house. So,
and as one of the people that works that bingo equipment, thank you, because it does make the job so much easier. Dan was even nice, and I have to thank him publicly for this, because I think it's just something he did, knowing that I have mobility issues and stuff like that, and seeing that I struggle sitting up on the stool. He was actually nice enough to lower the counters so I could actually sit down and kind of look at the people. So I want to again thank you for that, because that was
well, it only made sense because we had those big old huge chairs,
right?
That who are we trying to kid? We're not youngsters anymore, and even for us to get up there, even with us that are walking pretty healthy, we're having issues.
Oh, okay. That's a good question, real quick. Sure we do. Warrior Healing Center wants to know if you have any free time to share some of your electronics expertise. They could probably use it here, I think is what they're saying.
I can definitely talk to whoever needs for me to talk to.
All right. Well,
there's always options.
Yeah. How many kids do you have? I forgot to ask you about that real quick. Just your daughter? And where was she born?
My daughter was born in Camp Humphreys at Pyeongtaek Camp in Korea.
Okay.
Now you got to understand that. Wow.
Oh.
You got to remember, my wife is, on a good day, she's 5 foot tall. On a good day, but normally she fluctuates between 4'9" and 5 feet. She's not ashamed of it. She probably weighs 115 pounds, soaking wet. And my wife gave birth to a daughter that was 5 pounds 10 ounces.
And what year was that? Uh-oh. When's your daughter's birthday?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So needless to say, the doctor said it's probably not a good idea for you to have children anymore.
Okay.
They said the next time you could possibly kill her.
Ooh, yeah, you don't want to take that risk.
And then we said, okay, what are alternatives? And they said, adopt. So we were in Korea, so we're thinking about adopting, but then it's time to go back to the States and then go back to DLI, and then we go back to Korea, and we didn't, you never know you're going to go back to Korea. You never know what your next assignment is going to be when you PCS. So we go back to Korea, and we're like, okay, now we're back here, and maybe we need to think about adopting again. But the paperwork and the procedure and the expense was just taking too damn long, and then by the time we got halfway there, okay, well, we got to put your paperwork on hold because guess what? You're PCSing
again.
So again, you got to go back to the States, and then by the time, can we pick up where we left off? No, now we got to go back and do the paperwork all over again.
Start all over
because
again.
It's been more than X amount of years, and we don't want to know more. Anyway, it just became a real pain. What do we have here?
Kathy said Little Peanut. I don't know if that was her nickname or not, but
Little Peanut.
Because you said she's like 5 pounds.
Oh.
Your daughter,
no.
She was born?
Oh, my daughter?
Yeah.
10 pounds.
Or no. Oh, your daughter was 10. Maybe I misunderstood then what Kathy was. I thought you said 5 pounds.
No. Did I say 5 pounds?
I thought you did.
I thought I said 10 pounds, 5 ounces. Anyway, my daughter, I'll never forget that.
Okay, because
my daughter was.
Gotcha.
Put it this way: when I'm in the waiting room, waiting for my wife and my baby and everything, and then I see this nurse walk by, and this nurse walks by, and I swear she's carrying a toddler. I mean, that's how big the baby. She's carrying a toddler and it's wrapped up in a blanket. Yeah, I see her walk by. Okay, somebody got a baby. And then I'm still waiting in there. About 30 minutes later, the doctor, he shows up and he goes, "Did you see your daughter? Did you see your baby?" And I said, "No." "Well, she was just here." And I said, "No," because I saw a nurse go by with a toddler in her arms, not a newborn baby. I swear my daughter was big girl.
Yeah.
And the doctor says, "No, that's your daughter." And I said, "She's way too big to be a newborn." He goes, "Yes, for your poor wife."
So, yeah, I can. That makes more sense because I thought you did say 5 pounds. That's what Kathy was saying because she said that she understood it too. Because,
I'm sorry.
No, well, because here's the thing, right? Because when you were saying your wife was so small and then having a small baby, I couldn't make that connection. But now I see the connection.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I really I really screwed that one up. No, the point I was trying to make is my wife is so tiny,
right?
And then during her pregnancy, she hardly showed. I got pictures. If you look at her, you wouldn't know that she's pregnant. It's like, where did you keep the baby? Where did you keep that girl that weighed 10 pounds, 5 ounces?
The stork delivered her.
I guess so. So needless to say, the doctor says, you shouldn't have any children. It'd be very dangerous for your wife. Yeah. So we tried to adopt, and we couldn't adopt. So we have one daughter. The daughter lives in Tucson. I have 2 grandkids. My 2 grandkids attend South Point High School, a Catholic high school in Tucson.
Right.
And
go Lancers.
I don't know.
That's what it is. Yeah.
South Sounds Point good Catholic. To me. Lancers.
I don't like to say that though because I'm a boy in a cult. Here, but I'm just saying that's where your grandkids go. So.
And then the last thing I can say about my life and my career.
Okay.
I was a sports official for 30 years. I did baseball, softball, football, and volleyball. Umpire, referee.
Wow.
So when I was stationed during the weekends, when I was either stationed at DLI or when I was stationed at Fort Ord, California, I was officiating baseball, softball, volleyball, and football. And then when I went back to Korea, I would go officiate baseball, softball, volleyball, and football for the DoD schools.
Interesting.
And when I came here to Sierra Vista, I was officiating volleyball, football, baseball, softball, and I would support all the schools in this area: St. David, Bisbee, Benson, Nogales, Douglas, Tucson schools, St. David. I used to love going to officiating at St. David because they played what they call 8-man football.
I remember that.
It was great. And what was the other school way
I
out there?
I remember reading that.
Elfrida. Elfrida also had an 8-man team, so I used to love it. But then I just got tired.
So one last question for you, and looking back in what you've experienced, all the different careers, everything that you've had, what kind of guidance or experience could you share to any of our veterans or their dependents that are maybe watching this live stream? What could you give them as far as words of encouragement or look forward to once they've just separated from the military? Because as you know, it's not easy.
It is. I know it's not easy. From my perspective and from my wife's perspective, from my family. God, church, community.
Amen.
God, church, community. God's always there for you. The church is there to support you, and your community. You have to get involved with community to reach out to everybody, because you never know who you're going to meet that can help you in life.
That's right.
You never know. It's just like the gentleman I told you about when I was 14 years old. I met John Hernwright, and he gave me my first job, at a TV station.
And it just grew from there.
And it just grew from there. And, now I'm a double E, and, it all works out. God, church, community, family. You got to have all those, and you got to have them supporting you, and you got to support them. And if you don't know the answer to the question, ask. It's just like this place here. I'll be quite honest with you.
All right, please.
I never knew this place existed.
You're not the only one that said that.
Until you told me about it.
Right. Well,
I never knew it.
I mean,
I've worked in this, like I told you, I've worked in this building.
Yeah, he worked in here.
This across the hall there in that room. I forgot the name. I forgot the name of the company that was here.
It's a podcasting room now.
It's a podcasting room with the raised floor, with a lot of electronics and stuff underneath here.
I have to introduce you to Kathy. That's Tim's wife. I introduced you to Tim. She said, "Help spread the word."
I will now
I know.
Kathy.
We will. Believe me.
Oh, trust me. I will now. I mean, like I said, I've lived here for 28 years.
Yeah.
Since 93. Wow.
Yep.
And I've worked in this building. I worked in the building across the street when I worked for the contractor that supported U.S. Customs. Our office was across the street. I never knew this place. And until you told me, I never knew this place existed.
So far, you are the fourth Brother Knight I've had the honor of interviewing here. I got to interview, at the time he was the Grand Knight. It was Bryant Sayers.
Yeah.
Interviewed him first. And then I did Dale Hammond. Interviewed Dale.
Yeah.
And then I interviewed Doug Jakes.
Yeah.
So you're my fourth Brother Knight that I've got to interview. And I love interviewing Brother Knights that were in the military from our council, because I like our community to see that, yes, we're Catholic, yes, we're Christians, but it's not, like you said, God, family, community. And I really think that that's like the creed, especially with the Knights of Columbus, because they really do walk the walk. They don't just talk the talk.
Exactly.
Exactly. Well, Dan,
I mean, that's the best advice I can give. Not only a veteran. That's the best advice I can give any human being.
Right.
Anybody. I mean, if you don't have God in your life, I'm sorry, you're missing out.
And then the Warrior Healing Center adds to it that there are a lot of great organizations locally who help folks, and we are happy to work with good people for so many great organizations, and I second that. There are quite a few great organizations in our area, a lot of veteran organizations and a lot of civilian organizations.
Yes, there are.
And when the time, like if there's a tragedy, if something happens, the way our community can come together, it's I wish we could do that always.
And that's another reason why we stayed here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is like one of the best kept secrets.
Mm-hmm.
It's like quiet, but everybody is just great people here.
And it's one thing, it's so easy to help people from my perspective. It's so easy to offer help, want to help. I even get a little bit overexcited in wanting to help. And I think that's why I volunteer a lot of different places, because that's just my way of wanting to help. But in 2011, when my wife and I had the fire loss on the Monument wildfire, when that hit, we lost everything. I mean, it was gone.
Yeah.
Then you're gone from giving to now you're receiving. And I have to be honest with you, that's such an uncomfortable feeling to be put in, because it's so much easier to give than it is to receive.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
So,
where was I when that? Oh, I think I was actually. That's when I went out to live in Oceanside, California for 4 years, help supporting my nephew with his business.
Yeah, it was Father's Day. Well, on our day, the day we lost ours was June 19th, 2011.
Wow.
So,
wow.
But my wife and I looked at it like God gave us a do-over. It's just stuff, right?
Yep.
You can replace stuff. You can't replace a human being's life.
Right.
That's
right.
That's how we looked at it. So
exactly right.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for coming in this morning and joining us. And
well, it was great. I really
if you could hang out here with me for just a couple minutes, I'm going to read a few quick announcements. I want to let everybody know today and tomorrow the Elks Lodge is going to be having their Oktoberfest.
All right.
And I don't know what the hours are. I don't have the calendar in front of me. I'm sorry, but I believe it starts today at like 4 or 4:30 p.m. But again, that's the Oktoberfest at the Elks Lodge, and that starts today and tomorrow. There also the Family Fest is going on in the city park.
Right. Yeah. They
so
just had an announcement.
They got that going on too. So
where's the Elks Lodge again? Is it the one on Wilcox?
Right out on Wilcox, right outside
right across
the gate.
From it's right across from the Angry Germans.
Don't know if I want to go and eat there. Right?
Oh, so good!
They like that. I understand it is.
It is so good. I'm just when they two angry German guys or whatever the name of the place. It's just so funny. When I heard that, I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And I said, "I don't believe you," until I actually went there, and it's sure enough, it's two angry German guys or something like that. It's so funny. It's hilarious.
It used to be.
Used to be a German bakery or something.
Yeah. And then she was doing breakfast, I think, and lunch, and then sold the business to them. And they do dinner, right? I have to see what their hours are.
I think they do dinners on certain days, maybe.
But yeah, they're right across from the Elks Lodge there.
Good
so
food.
It's right outside the. So some of our upcoming events we have coming tomorrow, starting at 07:30, we have the Bellow Vets group ride, and that is when we have a bunch of disabled veterans. Well, I don't think you have to be a disabled veteran. Veterans get together, and Stu Carter runs that organization. They get them a bike or get on a bike, and you get out and you ride. You get healthier. You're outside, camaraderie. I mean, there's just so much good things about it. I can't stress enough that if you like to ride and you've never done it, please go check out the Bellow Vet group ride that starts tomorrow at 07:30, and they'll be meeting at the country club, Pueblo del Sol Country Club parking lot over here off of 92 and St. Andrews, I think is the name, isn't it? The road there?
I think so.
If I'm not mistaken. Also on Saturday, starting at 0800, we have the American Legion Riders Post 52 annual bike bash. And that takes place at the American Legion Post 52. All bikes, trikes, and automobiles are welcome. On Sunday is a very important day. September 25th is Gold Star Mother's and Father's Day. So remember to honor all of our Gold Star families this Sunday, please. Monday, September 26th, starting at 17:30, going to 18:30, we have the 5 Treasures of Qigong, which is a yoga type thing. On Tuesday, September 27th, 0900 to 1200, and then 1300 to 1600 is Healing with Art. And it's fall, y'all. So come on in at the Warrior Healing Center main conference room. And then on Wednesday, September 28th, going from 1800 to 1900, is a new support group that they're just starting here at the Warrior Healing Center. And it's called Heart to Heart Ladies PTSD Group. And that will be taking place at the Warrior Healing Center. And one last thing, I just want to wish my dad a happy 88th birthday.
Happy birthday.
Next Monday will be my dad, Jack Zehr's birthday. So I want to wish you a happy birthday, Dad. Love you.
I got a question for you.
What's that?
Okay. Is it 0800 or is it 0800?
0800.
Okay.
I always say 0800. I don't know.
But O's in the alphabet.
Yeah, I know. I get such a bad habit.
Okay.
0800.
All right. Just verifying the time.
I appreciate I stand corrected. All right. So coming again from the Warrior Healing Center, thank you everybody for joining us. You guys have a great day and a great weekend. God bless. We'll see you next Friday.
Yes. God bless.
Bye.
Bye-bye.